Hello, let's continue with the golf course creation. The golf course is a little bit empty outside of our Unity terrain. In the reference image, we see background, mountains, so I would suggest we create some. We can do this inside the scene with the current terrain, or let's open a dedicated scene for this. It's easier for reuse. We don't need the geometry, we need MicroVerse terrain. Let me remove the fog again, just for visibility. In my ultimate stamp collection, I have alpine mountains. We can use the free examples here. Let me drag this in, increase the height a bit. I open the stamp creator for the texturing and the asset gallery. We can use the gravel texture for the rocks. At the distance, you will not notice that this is gravel. Drag this in. Oh, by the way, also added the keybinds that the content browser uses. So Control-Shift, drag in on this pad will create the stamp at the center with the fall off. Type set to global. So let's also add some grass so that it's not so monotonous. I choose, for instance, flow. Increase this a bit, move the flow around. It's a bit of toying around with this. Now let's have this overhang, maybe also add some sand. You can use the concave curve for this. It's a bit of fiddling around and reduce the layer weight. It's just to get some diversity into the mesh. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Let me close this. Open Tools, Roland, Terrain Converter, Terrain to Mesh. We have a single terrain, so we can press Add All. Resolution is 128 by 128 with 16K vertices. I guess this is fine for now, for the initial test. We need the albedo, normal, mask maps. Currently no super sampling. I do not need the overwrite, and it should be created in here with this terrain name. The mesh is placed at the same position as the terrain is, so let's move this here. You know what? We need to change it anyway. So let's first look at the terrain. This is regular mesh terrain with regular distribution of the vertices. I remove this. Let's put this right to the terrain with the next output. We need to simplify anyway. Let's reduce the vertices to, let's say, 20%. 2K texture, it's fine. And let's make this 8 times sampled so that you do not see the pixels. It's rather blurred then, but from distance you will not notice. It takes a bit to calculate. Here we go. This is the mesh terrain that was created with reduction. Maybe let's also do this a bit different to have this more pluggable. So I will delete the mesh terrain again, switch to alpine mountains and remove the bounds around here. Switch this to range, reduce a bit. Now to get rid of this hard gap, let's switch to smooth step. And let's create one again. So here we have it, our backdrop mountain with around 4K vertices. We can reuse this. Here is the prefab that was created. Let's switch back to the golf course. I need the first one. The other one was a test. Of course I test this before I show it, to save you the time. Let me switch back to shaded draw mode without wireframe. So what we can do now is open the terrain converter backdrop distributor. We distribute around our terrain, so I can safely set to all. Then use terrain mesh. 10 instances may be a bit low, but it's the same prefab all over again. So let's first show how this looks like. That's actually quite nice. Let's increase this to 20. Yeah, I like this. We can increase the scale, of course. Let me show you how this works. 1 and 2 and 1.5 and 3, maybe place again. Yeah, that's nice. The gap here is because the backdrop container is a bit higher. You can adjust the height offset here, but for the sake of this demo, let's reduce the height here. Let's say 70 or 50. Yeah, I like this one. And let's add some haze. So let's re-add the fog. This is a bit intense. Let me reduce this a bit. And the Unity settings are cut off here, so we have to adjust this manually. Let me move this to 0.4 or 3. Yeah, this is nice. It's a bit of haze. Clouds are maybe missing. We can use our own skybox, or BK has an environment manager. Let me find it here. Prefabs. Here it is. Let me add it. And now we have clouds as well. And this is how you can easily create backdrop mountains with MicroVerse. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you very much for watching.